Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Raji Kopolu. I am the immediate past president of the National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners. And as such, I chair our nominations committee, and we have officially kicked off our nominations process this year. And so we are really excited to hopefully reach out to as many of you as possible to consider a position on our executive board or the nominations committee itself. And so at the end of this recording, you'll be directed to our website where the link will be where you can learn about each of the open positions on our nominations committee or executive board. And you can also fill out a link if you'd like to either self-refer or refer a colleague for one of these positions. And then you'll be connected with a member of our nominations committee to help provide you additional information and support. But I thought it would be really helpful to have you hear directly from some of our current executive board members, as well as some of our former leaders of the association, to hear firsthand about their experience so they can share a little bit about why it was so valuable and wonderful to serve this wonderful association that we all love so much. So I'm going to call on each of these esteemed colleagues of mine to introduce themselves, and then I have some questions for each of them. And again, we are so glad you were able to listen into the recording today. So first, Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Woodward, and I'm in my second term as a member at large, serving all of you, and glad to be here today.
Thanks, Kathy. Teresa?
I'm Teresa Zielinski. I am the past communications chair, which is now a member at large, and also served as the president of NAPNAP.
Wonderful. Anne?
Hi everyone, I'm Ann Derwin. I am also in my second term of the in the role of the member at large on the executive board.
Thanks, Anne. Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary Chesney, and I served on the board for 6 years, 3 years as the health policy chair, which is now a member at large position from 2010 to 2013. And then from 2013 to 2016, I served in the role of president-elect, president, and past president.
And Laura?
Good afternoon, and I'm Laura Searcy, and I served as the Health Policy Committee Chair and then as President of NAPNAP.
Thanks, Laura. We're so lucky to be joined by such wonderful leaders and colleagues today. So I have a few questions I'd like to pose to each of you to help our members. So I'll start with Mary. In your time working on the executive board, what did you feel was one of the greatest things about your experience in board service?
Thanks for the question, Raji. You know, for me, it was just such a powerful and uplifting experience to be able to engage and collaborate with wonderfully talented and committed, highly motivated other individuals on the board, and then to be able to really pool all of our collective energies into trying to promote the role of the pediatric nurse practitioner nationally, and then also really do, I think, some very important work engaging with policymakers in Washington to promote policies that would enhance and promote children's health and well-being. So it was just a tremendously rewarding time. I think those were 6 of the most rewarding years of my career. And as a bonus to all of that, I've met wonderful friendships. I have wonderful friends and people that are still very important in my life through that experience as well.
Thank you, Mary. I think it is one of those consequences of serving in these types of positions where you get to meet people you wouldn't otherwise. And so thank you for pointing that out. It's a wonderful thing about serving. Teresa, what was something new that you learned when you served on the board for NAPNAP?
I think the thing that I was most amazed by is how much we can truly affect change by what we do. The way Washington, D.C. has listened to us and our voice as nurses and as leaders and as nurse practitioners, and truly see the effects and the outcomes of us having discussions and bringing forth the knowledge that we have and the experiences that we have and how we care for the children that we care for. I know we make a difference, but I think it's been so rewarding to really see change in Washington, D.C. based off of conversations that I and my other colleagues have had with people there. I think that truly amazed me. The other component that I think I was really interested in seeing evolve was our partnerships with other nursing organizations, and how much we can truly get done with those partnerships by collaborating with these other organizations, making our voices louder, and seeing those partnerships grow and become more foundational for the organization, and helping support us with NAPNET partners and other components of the organization.
That's great, Teresa. And I agree. I think serving now as the immediate past president, I'm so grateful to those that served before me and created this path that we continue to pave going forward. And it's true, our voices are heard collectively and nationally as a result of all of that. So that's a wonderful point. Thank you. Kathy, serving on the board now, what do you think are some important skills that are important and critical to serving on the board, no matter what the position, as people contemplate if they are interested?
Well, I thought of 4 things about what's important. And the first one is to bring an open mind. We all come with our agendas, but we have to remember when we come to meetings to be ready to learn something new that we hadn't thought of, a way to look at something that's different than what we had known. The second was a listening ear, making sure that when we're listening that we're seeking to understand. And when we bring that to a meeting, we always come back more full. The next one is flexibility, especially in 2020. We have had, and Raji can tell you, we have had to pivot and shoot with very short notice. And we've been meetings, a few more meetings than we would have ever expected. And just changing to a virtual world this year. So being flexible is critical. And then I think the last one is being willing to speak up. And we're not, when you come to the board, you know, it does take a little bit of time to figure out how to speak up and how to use your voice. But once you've got that down, to use your voice both to seek clarification of what's being said, and also to respectfully voice differences of opinion. It's vital that we all be able to talk to one another. So coming with those things, an open mind, a listening ear, flexibility, and speaking up.
That's so helpful, Kathy. Thank you. And it is true. 2020 has been a year of all years. And I think our association has responded swiftly with quite a bit of innovation, and just it's been so wonderful to see how we've been able to meet the challenging times that we have. And I think everything that you mentioned is so important. We want to respect and bring so much diversity to these positions. And as part of that, we have a real wonderful culture of dissent, and know that we'll have wonderful opinions and diverse opinions to share and work through. So that was very well said. Thank you. So Anne, we are all busy professionals, and obviously serving in a volunteer board position or nominations committee position is taking our own time to do that. So what would be your suggestions of how to best balance our professional work as well as the work and time needed to serve on the board?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question, Raji. And I really appreciate what Kathy just alluded to, in that we did have a very unusual year in 2020, which required an exceptional amount of time that we wouldn't have normally spent in meetings. And so that flexibility and having an open mind that Kathy alluded to is super important, because all of us need to be present. The service that you bring on the board, we need everyone's voice and buy into that. And so it is important to think about what other responsibilities you have in life as you come forward to the service. One of the easiest ways I approach it is that I was so passionate about our organization and so interested in amplifying our voice, as Teresa suggested, and certainly Mary suggested, that, you know, we have to think about, like, where do we want to put our intentions and our efforts as we go forward. And so I thought about that a lot before I actually came forward into the board and had participated in other leadership activities, so I could get a taste of what is it going to be. So serving on a SIG or doing advocacy work and those kinds of things is really helpful to understand how to coordinate your time. And then planning. And I think all of us are really great planners when we're busy professionals. And so recognizing that There could be travel time, and board commitment is very good about telling us when we need to be somewhere and what that's going to look like. And I've always appreciated that very much on this board. And then just going ahead and thinking about having that be part of your routine. And so members at large, I feel like we don't have as much commitment as those of you who have served in the presidential role. That's even more demanding with weekly, I know you can talk to this, Raji, but weekly meetings versus monthly calls or bi-monthly calls, depending on what committee you're serving on. But planning on that as being part of your sort of work week, and then knowing that the board is going to help you schedule those weekends or time that you need to be committed to our meetings. And I think the final piece I'll say about that is as you're making this commitment to being part of the board, you're doing it because you care. It's so enriching. You know that you can amplify the voice of the organization through the contribution. And so it's value added into my career, knowing that I'm committing time that I might have been doing something else, but it's a payoff, and it's going to enhance all of our membership by committing to it in a very intentional way.
That's wonderful, Anne. Thank you. And yes, it's true. Obviously, each position has different commitments and responsibilities. And it's probably a wonderful time to also point out how incredible our national office staff is. And I just, of course, want to acknowledge Eileen Arnold for bringing us together. But they keep us going and keep the direction moving, and really heed the board's direction from a strategic standpoint and governance of moving several projects and initiatives forward. So that really does help us keep going and keep our organization together. So very grateful for all of our wonderful staff as well. And Laura, we've talked about board service, we've talked about national impact in child health, we've talked about some of the things we've pulled away from the experiences we've had serving for NAPNAP. And so what would you say is maybe one or few of the lessons that you learned in your service?
I think, and it really took me on a wonderful trip down memory lane thinking about how to answer this question. And I want to echo a little thing that, something that Kathy brought up. And it's just the importance of the minority opinion on the board is the most important opinion in the room. And our board has such a culture, and this was just a lesson for me of how important that culture of collegiality and respect and acceptance is, that all of us and all of our diversities of opinion are important. And in fact, some of the most fruitful board discussions I ever remember is when like it sounded like there was a bunch of us that were ready to jump on a train going down a certain track, and then one person in the room went, you know, I really have a different perspective on that. And everybody stops, and all those perspectives are so important. And so it was just a lesson of the synergy of what happens when you have a culture of respect and collegiality and everybody working together, and the experience of working with a group of committed people, developing friendships with folks that were around the country. That as we see from this screen, they maintain, and the richness that you gain from the experience just far outlives your time of service on the board. Also, the pleasant surprise, as Teresa mentioned, that our 9,000 voices actually make a difference, and that we can actually do things and help drive things and help focus the energies of our membership and our resources to actually make a positive difference in children's lives. From new initiatives, when Teresa and I were on the board, that's when we launched NAPNAP Partners for Vulnerable Youth and started our Path on the Trafficking program and educating other healthcare providers. And just those new and innovative creations that you just never imagine. And the last thing that I'll mention is the power. What I learned was the power of mentorship. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to help folks, and I don't even want to say help, but just encourage people to find their voices and to find their leadership style and to help them learn that they can do things that they wouldn't even have imagined. And I was in that position once too. There's some of you on the screen that kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, Laura, you might really be good at doing this. And I'm like, oh, not really. Well, yeah, really. You want to give it a try? And just that ability to just pass that down and encourage, because we have some just wonderfully talented people in our organization. And I'm hoping that some of those wonderfully talented people who are listening to this are willing to take a chance and give the opportunity for board service a try, because I don't think you will ever, ever regret it.
True.
Thanks, Laura. And it's true. I think all of us think back to how we initially got involved with the association, and it was that tap on the shoulder from somebody who reached out to us and said, I think this is something you could do. So we hope we are all collectively tapping you on all of your shoulders right now and hoping that you'll consider a position. So before we end, I'd love to open it up to anyone if any other final thoughts or comments of encouragement for our members.
You can consider this your personal invitation. Don't hold back. Just come on.
Well, and I want to guarantee everybody that you will get more out of the experience that you give. The payback is tenfold. And I encourage everybody to grab 10 of their friends and encourage them to vote so that we have the true voice of the membership and we have as many people voting as possible, not just in this election, but in the elections that are happening around us in our states and our local areas, as well as the national election. We need to have our voices heard, and so I encourage everybody to take that moment.
And I would say, don't be afraid to raise your hand, and don't wait for somebody to tap you on the shoulder. Although if you're interested in health policy, if you're interested in board service, if you're interested in special interest groups, if you're interested in NAPNAP Partners for Vulnerable Youth or any of other committees, let people know. Our Team PEDS profiles are so important because we're a 9,000 member organization, and we're past the point that every member of the board can have a personal relationship with every one of our very valuable members. So if you have an interest, if you have a talent that you want to share at any level, please, reach out, let us know so we can get you on board.
And following up with that, that's perfect, Laura. And following up with that is, if there is someone that you want to talk with us, any of us would be more than happy knowing these wonderful women. Like, if you want to send us an email or be in touch with us, we are more than happy to answer specific questions or give you encouragement or serve as a mentor and answer anything that you may have if you're contemplating this opportunity. But I agree. Don't hold back. Come forward. We'd love to see a very robust nomination panel that we can welcome.
And I just want to amplify what Laura said. If you're listening to this and you think, oh gosh, being on the board is something I might like to do in the future, but I just don't feel ready, or you're fairly new in the organization, I just really want to reiterate what Laura said. Usually the organization puts out a call for various committees that have openings, such as health policy or other committees. And that is just a really good way to just be able to kind of put your toe in the water, begin to get acquainted with the organization and how it works, and to begin to build some skills working at a national level on a committee, or do something within your chapter. But there are ways of being new and being able to kind of be strategic about getting opportunities that kind of build until you feel maybe that you're at a good point in your life to want to put your hat in the ring for a board position. So I appreciate what Laura and Ann have said in terms of not overlooking those opportunities first if you feel like you need a little more time to make a board decision.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Well, I want to say thank you to all of you for being here and sharing your perspective. And I hope that for those of you who are listening to this, that you have some inspiration, some wind behind you to give you that push. And again, whether it's executive board service, nominations committee, or again, getting involved at any level of the association. We welcome you. We are so excited to have you and your opinion and your perspective. So thank you for being an NAPNAP member, for being engaged in this process, and for all of your commitment to child health and well-being. So thank you again for joining us, and be safe.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.